Coming up on 2020 on ID, the little boy who survived a 6-day standoff with a madman. From the bus where he was snatched.
Oh my God, he took Ethan, oh my God.
To the neighbors terrorized for years.
He threatened to kill us all.
To the underground bunker that became a prison.
He had a very specific plan. He was very proud of his plan. He had rehearsed.
A daring rescue and a joyous reunion. Plus, another child captured and held underground.
There were times that I thought that I could hear people upstairs. I would scream on the top of my lungs, "Help me, I'm down here."
And the horrifying secret that helped her survive. Then, Elizabeth Smart kidnapped her little sister, a witness. Does her memory hold the key to her sister's return?
The name Emmanuel came into my head.
Rescued. Welcome to 2020 on ID. I'm John Quinones. A child kidnapped by a predator. Most of the time, that story ends in tragedy. But in the 3 stories you're about to see, the children did come home safely. They are the cases that made national news, riveting audiences with their real life and death stakes. But exactly how did the police catch the predators? And what do the children involved say about their ordeal? First, the story of Ethan, who spent 6 days in prison in an underground bunker in Alabama. He was the captive of a person called the Mean Man by his neighbors. As David Muir first reported in 2013, it was a case where the police knew who did it and where the boy was. The question was, how could they get Ethan out alive?
Few had ever heard of Midland City, Alabama, a peaceful southern town, population 2,300, a town that relies on its faith. And no one here ever dreamed that faith would be tested after what happened on an ordinary school bus at the end of an ordinary school day would set off a 6-day siege of terror.
The dangerous situation is still unfolding this morning in Alabama. It involves the words no parent wants to hear: a man with a gun, a child on a bus, and a child kidnapped.
It all began when bus driver Chuck Poland, 66 years old, known for calling the school children his kids, brought the bus to a halt, flagged down by Jimmy Lee Dykes, who lived along the bus route. Dykes would immediately make demands. He wanted 2 of the children on that bus.
I need 2 boys on your bus. I mean, right now. Right now. I don't kill you.
It's my responsibility.
I can't help that. I can't help
I can't turn them over to somebody else.
And sitting up front in his favorite seat, a 5-year-old named Ethan.
Tell me where Ethan was sitting, and did he usually have a name tag on his seat?
He had a name tag up here where it said Ethan.
Terica Singletary was on the bus with Ethan. She showed us where she was sitting in the back. She could hear those terrifying demands up front.
You said he kept threatening. And what was he saying?
It sounded like he was finna really kill us.
She showed us how she and the other children crouched behind their seats, her fingers to her ears, afraid gunshots were coming. As the driver tried to throw the bus in reverse, he was shot several times. He was dead, and the gunman grabbed the first child he could get to, little Ethan.
Could you hear Ethan?
Mm-hmm.
And what was he doing?
He was just like, please just let me go. I just want to go home. And he's like, oh, just be quiet. And he was just dragging him to the fence, trying to cut the fence open.
Oh my gosh, what's going on? The bus driver's there. Oh my gosh, hang in there, baby, hang in there. Just get down, get down.
Just had a bus driver shot, possibly deceased.
Suspect has removed the child from the bus.
The children watched as Dykes pulled Ethan away. And they knew they had to get themselves off that bus, back through that front door, walking past the bus driver, Mr. Poland, who was slumped in his seat. And by then, Ethan was gone. The shooter, Jimmy Lee Dykes, had taken him onto his property and down through a hatch into a bunker he'd made himself. 2020 obtaining this video from the neighbor across the street, the first moments after police arrived. The entire neighborhood under lockdown, and Rhonda Wilbur, who lives across from Dykes, got a frantic text from her husband and son, who were still at home.
The text said, "Mean Man finally did it. He shot the bus driver."
So people who lived all around here call him Mean Man.
Yes.
We're hearing bus driver dead, one kid hostage.
Right.
And by then, Ethan was down in the bunker.
The Mean Man, as they all called him, Jimmy Lee Dykes, was a man neighbors had grown to fear. A decorated Navy veteran, he'd grown suspicious of the government. He was known for his rants, and he was always carrying a gun.
He usually had by him at least a rifle and a shovel.
You thought for years he was a ticking time bomb.
Yes. I don't think that there's a single person on the road that he didn't threaten to kill at one point or another.
He threatened to kill you?
Yes. He threatened to kill us all, yes.
Now, he was underground, in that primitive bunker, just 6 by 8 feet, with Ethan, who we would all soon learn is autistic. Not only was his mother terrified for his safety, she was terrified how he might react, held underground by a stranger.
You believe he had planned to take a child into that bunker?
Yes, 100%. He had a very specific plan. He was very methodical, very detailed, and through our communications with the negotiators, he was very proud of his plan.
That plan was just now playing out. The only way into that bunker, a trap door at the top. SWAT teams and negotiators began the careful task of trying to get Ethan out. The only way to communicate at first, through a ventilation pipe into the bunker.
It was encouraging that the dialogue remained open. We were allowing him to vent towards us instead of towards Ethan. And perhaps most importantly in this situation, we were able to gather valuable tactical intelligence.
At this time, we have no reason to believe that the child has been harmed. Pray. Pray.
They could hear Dykes. They could hear Ethan, too. His crying.
Could you hear Ethan upset?
You could hear him upset.
And for Ethan's mother, anguish. She could not hold her Ethan, the boy who loved to be hugged.
How do you tell a mother that it's going to be okay when her boy is in that bunker?
Put my arm around her and just sat there with her. And I probably didn't say 10 words for a long time. And then as we began to talk and to share, she asked me this question. She said, "Pastor, what have I done wrong?"
Ethan's older brother, Cameron, never leaving their mother's side.
One of the hardest things for your family was not being able to hug him, because Ethan loves to be hugged, right?
That's correct. And it was very hard not to be able to physically touch him and hug him and, you know, really be there for him.
The shooter.
Negotiators could also hear something else, a TV on in the bunker. They knew there was another way to reach Dykes.
Part of our strategy from a negotiation standpoint was really try to reinforce that point with Mr. Dykes, that he was responsible for Ethan's safety, and going as far working to craft a media message thanking him.
The country was watching when you came out and you said, "Thank you for taking care of our child."
I want to thank him for taking care of our child.
You were talking to him?
Yes. I was talking directly to him.
So you knew exactly what you were doing in saying that?
Yes, sir.
You're trying to keep him calm?
Yes, sir.
We always say we can't control the subject's behavior or attitude, but we can control our own and project that calm demeanor.
They were also trying to keep Ethan calm, convincing Dykes to allow them to drop in his medicine, his coloring books, a toy car, a toy dinosaur, even Cheez-Its crackers. And how would they get those items in? Not through the pipe, but through the hatch at the top of the bunker. They were told to leave them there and order to get away.
And he would reach out and grab the stuff.
And they would listen for Ethan's reaction to the toys.
Those were the only moments of joy.
Yeah.
But the clock was running, and the hours had turned into days.
Just beyond that line of trees, a 5-year-old boy named Ethan is spending his third terrifying day in captivity.
The team frantically looking for more ways to watch Dykes, convincing him to allow a cell phone in. There was overhead surveillance, and somehow they had sneaked a camera into the bunker too. The FBI won't say how they got it in or how much they could actually see.
You could hear what was going on in the bunker.
I can just tell you we had a really good idea of what was going on inside the bunker.
And because they knew what was unfolding in that bunker, it allowed the team to send text messages to Ethan's mother, his family, and those messages were enough to keep them going.
And we did know when, at times, he was asleep. And that was normally around 9 o'clock at night.
So they would at least be able to tell you he's gone to bed for the night?
Yes. We'd normally get a text or something that he had fallen asleep.
Was that at least some comfort?
That was actually a lot of comfort, where I could actually go lay my head down.
Dykes was demanding a reporter and a camera be sent in so that he could send out a message.
His intent was to have a female reporter down there with him and that she would hold his hand. Well, in fact, he got his final message out to the world and then committed suicide in her presence.
That was never going to happen. We're not in the business of endangering more lives.
They were at work at a makeshift bunker, practicing not far from the real bunker where Ethan was being held.
You know that if you rush anything and you do anything the wrong way, his life is in danger.
As the days wore on, nearly a week now in that bunker, Dykes was deteriorating, suddenly so fast they feared he would spiral out of control.
You're scared. You know damn well I'm smarter than most of you people. You know damn well I have the knowledge, I have the experience, I have the ability, and I have the balls to show just how corrupt this damn system is.
How close do you think his mother was to losing Ethan?
I thought he was going to die. We all thought he was going to die.
He made it clear he was going to harm Ethan?
He made it very clear that he was going to execute his plan, and that was the day.
When we come back, what suddenly frightened those agents enough to act?
By the end of this day, there's going to be a determination as to just exactly what the hell is going to take place.
I thought the child was in imminent danger.
And what did they do to trick the gunman? Stay with us. When Ethan's mother put him on the school bus that winter morning, she had no reason to think she wouldn't see him later that day. Then the unimaginable happened. A local man, Jimmy Lee Dykes, had gotten on the bus, shot the driver, and taken Ethan to an underground bunker. Authorities knew where he was, but the bunker seemed impossible to break into without putting Ethan in danger. Once again, David Muir.
On the 6th day of the standoff, Ethan just 2 days from his 6th birthday, and his mother, his family, an entire town, unsure if they'd ever be able to throw Ethan that birthday party he'd so hoped for.
It's an innocent kid. Let him go back to his parents. He's crying for his parents and his grandparents, and he does not know what's going on.
Behind the scenes, FBI agent Steve Richardson was growing increasingly worried too. As he monitored that bunker, he could see, he could hear Jimmy Lee Dykes growing increasingly agitated. He was holding a gun, and he was bragging about his unfolding plan.
At the end of this day, there's going to be a determination as to just exactly what the hell is going to take place. You just go ahead and send some mother down that funnel up there to their death.
The time for negotiating was suddenly over.
What did you hear that told you had to get the boy out?
Our negotiators, our behavioral analysis personnel were all telling me the subject's not going to come out. It's not going to get any better. It's getting worse.
He made it clear he was going to harm Ethan?
He made it very clear that he was going to execute his plan, and that was the day. I thought the child was in imminent danger.
It was his call to make, and at 3:12 in the afternoon, nearly 6 days to the hour after Ethan was dragged off that bus, and a small elite team that had been practicing in that makeshift bunker was moving in. They told Dykes what they had told him before, that they were there to drop off more of Ethan's medicine, but they were waiting at that small hatch. When Dykes approached it, they set off 2 flash grenades to distract him, to blow the hatch open. A gunfight ensued, Dykes firing at the team. They fired back, and then silence. For everyone listening at the command center, their most worrisome moment.
I cannot tell you how long it seemed from the time of the breach till the entry.
Then one of the agents radioed in.
The best words I've heard were, "The child's crying. The child is crying."
You knew he was okay?
He was crying, he was breathing. I knew that was good news.
And for Ethan's mother, who'd been relying on every text message sent from that team, this time she would get a phone call, and Ethan's older brother Cameron was right there.
You were there when she got the call?
We were all there when they told us.
What did they say?
They said, "We have Ethan."
And down below, an alarming find. 2 bombs authorities believe were part of the plan. One in the bunker, the other in that ventilation pipe. And they've discovered writings left behind by Dykes that the FBI told us might one day shed light on his motive. Meantime, the town, Ethan's family, moving forward with plans for that 6th birthday party. Ethan is playing again, the family telling us he hasn't spoken of the bunker or of that man. Instead, focusing on his new toy cars and finally celebrating that birthday at the town church. His only other trip, they tell us, to Toys R Us. And from his family, a message for the team that saved their little boy.
Thank you for bringing the boy back. I mean, my brother, he's something else. He's a bundle of joy. And I would tell him thank you every day I could because they gave us him back.
And there is someone else Ethan's family would like to thank, the bus driver, Chuck Poland, who gave his own life to protect the other children on that bus. The town pastor and his wife, their own grandchildren on the bus.
The kids on that school bus, they loved their bus driver.
I loved him and I didn't even know him.
And it turns out that that bus driver was not only kind to the school children, he'd been kind even to Jimmy Lee Dykes. The FBI telling us tonight that the bus driver and his wife in recent months had befriended the loner, known to everyone else in the town as Mean Man. They were worried that he was alone.
As a matter of fact, the bus driver may have been one of the only friends that the subject had. And he entered the bus, demanded children, and shot his friend to death.
A town remembering Mr. Poland, and a town still praying for little Ethan, praying that those smiles have returned for good. His mother saying she can't describe how incredible it is to hold him again, her sweet boy. Finally, a family able to hug the boy who loves to be tucked in at night.
How many times have you hugged him?
I've lost count.
What would you like to say to the town?
Thank you. Thank you all.
A simple thank you, now that Ethan is home.
When we come back, how does a child recover from an abduction? 20 years ago, she was snatched off the street.
It turns out to be Katie. Click. That's all we had.
She was held captive in a dungeon that police could not find.
I would scream on the top of my lungs, "Help me, I'm down here."
The incredible story of Katie Beers. And later, the sister who witnessed the kidnapping of Elizabeth Smart.
Dad, Elizabeth's gone.
How did she help catch a madman? Stay with us. How does a child survive the ordeal of kidnapping and assault? How can a child get through it psychologically? And what happens when she grows up? As Paula Ferris first reported in 2013, Katie Beers has some of those answers. Not only did she survive, she managed to manipulate her captor and win her freedom.
Before there was Ethan, there was Katie Beers, a poster child synonymous with kidnapping and captivity. 20 years ago, she was saved, and now telling her story. By all appearances, she's living a normal life. Close family, 2 beautiful children, but the road here has been a torture journey.
Is it difficult for you to talk about? Talking about the specifics of the abuse is where it gets difficult.
Good evening. Katie Beers is missing, 9 years old.
Katie Beers became national news back in December 1992, just 2 days before her 10th birthday. Katie was living with her godmother, Linda Ingalari, at the time.
I won't be able to sleep. I can't get her off my mind.
On that day, a family friend named John Esposito, known in the Long Island neighborhood as Big John, picked her up from her house and took her to buy a birthday present.
So I figured, let's go to Toys R Us. I'll buy you a birthday present.
According to Big John, he bought Katie a video game, then took her to this arcade. When she went to buy tokens, he claimed she simply vanished.
She was walking towards the machine.
Worry turns to panic.
Get in touch with me any way you can.
Katie's godmother gets a message on her answering machine.
It turns out to be Katie, and she's sobbing. Click. That's all we had, and that results in Linda Ingaleri calling 911.
Detective Lieutenant Dominic Varone and his kidnap investigation team have plenty of questions for John Esposito, the last man to see Katie.
He said something dirty happened to her.
That telltale remark instantly transforms Big John from a sobbing friend into the prime suspect. Turns out Big John has a big rap sheet. Years earlier, he pled guilty to grabbing a 7-year-old boy from a shopping mall. The cops raid his home, but instead of finding Katie, they discover a messy bachelor pad. Police set up a temporary command post on the property.
But he was very nervous about it and insisted that we remove our equipment and our detectives.
That seemed suspicious.
Oh, it did, but we had no choice but to oblige.
But all the while, Katie was close, very close. In fact, just a few feet below where the cops were standing. No wonder they couldn't locate her. Just like Jimmy Lee Dykes, Esposito had built an elaborate dungeon for his prey, ingeniously concealed. First, there was a bookshelf in Big John's office that had to be unscrewed and rolled out, revealing a closet.
He picked me up and he threw me into the closet that was in his office. The closet had a wall of bare nails in it, and my back hit it. It felt like I was bleeding from puncture wounds. I was crying hysterically.
Under the carpet and under the linoleum, a 250-pound concrete trap door. And deep in that darkness below, the custom bunker Big John had built for Katie.
He told me to go ahead and go down, and I told him no, that I didn't want to. So then he threw me down.
And it was dark.
It was very dark. There was no light. Yes.
On her hands and knees, Katie crawled into this cold, musty compartment. Virtually the only light from this television perched above her makeshift soundproof coffin.
There were times that I thought that I could hear people upstairs. I would scream on the top of my lungs, "Help me, I'm down here."
And nobody heard.
No.
I'm not hurt you, Susie.
It's a scene right out of the movie Lovely Bones. A child is snapped by a neighbor hidden in an underground dungeon just like Katie. But Katie says she was uniquely prepared for this ordeal. Why? Because unbeknownst to the police and social services, Katie had already been living a hellish life of abuse at the hands of her godmother's husband, Sal.
I was sexually abused, physically abused, emotionally abused, verbally abused.
How were you able to fall through the cracks?
A lot of people kept to themselves. They really didn't report abuse.
What about your teachers? Did your teachers ever notice that things were not right at home?
They should have noticed something, because I was only in school maybe 1 or 2 days a week, if that often.
As twisted as it sounds, Katie believes it was her horrific home life which prepared her the hard way to survive John Esposito's dungeon.
I was so used to abuse that it didn't really have that much of an effect on me.
How did you survive the ordeal?
I did have to remove myself from the situation that I was in. I had to think happy thoughts.
You didn't sleep at all?
Not very much, no.
Why?
John wanted to take a picture of me laying on the floor looking like I was dead. And he wanted to then send it to the cops so that if they were looking for me...
You wonder if you saw this young girl around?
...that they would stop. And when I refused to do it, he said, "Okay, we'll get it done another time."
For now, all the family can do is wait and worry.
In the tomb, Katie watched TV reports about herself and was determined to stay alive. Chained around the neck, she began manipulating her captor, forcing him to confront the future.
When I asked him how I would go to school, he told me that he would teach me what I needed to know. When I asked him how I would work, he would tell me that he had enough money for the 2 of us. When I asked him about getting married and having kids, he told me that when I was 18, he would marry me and have children with me.
So in some sick, demented way, he saw a future with you?
Yes.
Do you think that you saved yourself?
I do. I definitely think that by trying to manipulate him into thinking about the future and things like that, I think that got him a little scared and worried about what the future was going to hold.
Katie's strategy works.
Katie, how are you feeling?
After 17 days of intense round-the-clock surveillance, Esposito cracks and turns himself in, leading Lieutenant Verone down to the Chamber of Horrors, just steps from where the police had been searching for her.
She was just yards away. Did you feel duped at all?
Yeah, we did somewhat, but when everyone saw how she was secreted and the efforts that he took, they understood it.
Verone was afraid of what he might find.
You'd expect to find a child after spending 17 days in an underground chamber, trembling, scared, cowering, withdrawn, and instead we find this upbeat young girl talking about things like her pet dog.
Esposito pled guilty to kidnapping, and Katie was placed in a new home with loving foster parents. Step by halting step, she started to piece together the childhood she never had. Against the odds, Katie attained something resembling normalcy. She went to high school, joined the cheerleading squad, and went on to college. The dungeon 2 decades behind her, Katie has written her story in this book, Buried Memories.
My life is exactly what I had always wanted. 2 parents who love me, and a husband and 2 kids, and a wonderful family. I'm tearing up.
For Katie, the kidnapping of little Ethan in Alabama brings back childhood memories she wants to forget.
Hopefully he's able to recover in such a way as I did, by being able to remember what I needed to, and then burying it when I didn't need those memories.
In 2013, Katie Beer's captor, John Esposito, passed away in prison due to natural causes. In a statement, Katie said, "I'm saddened at the loss of a life, but at the same time, I'm happy that John Esposito will never be granted parole or have the opportunity to hurt anyone ever again." Katie is working on a book about how to heal and speaking to groups around the country about her experience, encouraging others to break their silence and tell their stories. When we come back, another child taken, seen through the eyes of the sister who watched it unfold.
Dad, Elizabeth's gone. I told him you're not going to find her. She's gone.
The story of Elizabeth Smart when we return. Elizabeth Smart. You probably remember how the nation stopped and watched when the beautiful 14-year-old Utah girl vanished and then miraculously was found. But what you might not have heard is the story of someone else at the heart of that terror, her little sister, Mary Catherine, then 9 years old. She was the only person who saw what happened, and as Diane Sawyer first reported in 2005, it would be her awakened memory that helped break open the case and bring home the sister she loved.
Elizabeth Smart, now age 17, an ordinary high school senior who talks about school and shopping and meets you with a slow, sweet smile. Nearby, her now 13-year-old sister, Mary Catherine, who shares something shy and sweetly old-fashioned. Her favorite movie star?
I like Doris Day.
You like Doris Day?
Yeah.
How do you know Doris Day?
My mom.
Mary Catherine is the baby girl in the family, mimicking the rowdy older brother who loves to tease her.
He's always like, "Hello, little sister."
Two sisters with a secret buried inside them, a memory of that terrifying night that shattered their sheltered world. And underneath her smile, the little girl recoils from the people with all that prurient fascination about her pain, even her teachers.
They asked me, like, "Were you scared that night? Do you have any more sisters?"
Why does that hurt so much?
I think it's just worthless for them to come up and ask me because, you know, they know what it's like. They know it was scary. Even if they haven't had it happen to them, they know it would be scary.
On a warm summer night in June, then 14-year-old Elizabeth and her 9-year-old sister Mary Catherine were sleeping in their shared bedroom when a man quietly entered through a kitchen window and mounted the stairs to their room.
I was sort of awake and I saw this guy in my room, like, who is he? I had no idea what he was doing in my room, and I saw him come over on my side, and then I saw him walk over to Elizabeth, and he tapped her, and she's like, what is it? And I guess she thought it was me.
The man forced a frightened Elizabeth to get out of her bed and get shoes.
If I was her, I would have, like, screamed my head off. I don't know how she did it, but...
Mary Catherine says she thought she saw a gun.
I thought it was a gun, but it was a knife.
She also thought he was all in white.
But he's wearing black, so whatever it is, I will probably never know.
Sometimes we can't explain things, don't you think?
Mm-hmm.
She gets up to tell her parents, but when she reaches her bedroom door, stops in terror because she sees the kidnapper still forcing her sister down the hall. So she flees back to her bed.
I was very shocked, and I was so scared. I just, like, ran back in my bed and, like, hopped, like, underneath my covers. And I waited for a very long time.
She didn't know that 2 hours would pass. Later, the family would reassure their tiny daughter that she had done exactly the right thing.
I'm thinking about you in your bed, because sometimes in my dreams, you know, when I'm really scared, I can't scream. I want to scream, but I can't. Was it like that, too?
It was sorta. But, you know, I thought, you know, be quiet, because if he hears you, he might take you too, and you're the only person who has seen this, and you have to tell them so they know. And yeah, and I was, like, shaking.
At about 4 a.m., she ventures out again to her parents' bedroom. They were asleep.
I wake up, my dad's like, what is it, Mary Catherine? I'm like, Dad, Elizabeth's gone. And he gets up and he goes racing into our room, and I told him, you're not going to find her, she's gone.
Lois Smart, Mary Catherine's mother, tells how the family followed police instructions about a frightened little witness.
They actually said, do not talk about it, because the more you talk about it, then she will glean information from, you know, those people around her discussing it, and then she will not be able to maybe remember what she actually did see or hear.
She tells police the man she saw was about 30 to 40 years old. He is, in fact, 49.
You know, we're talking a 9.5-year-old, dark, in a dark room, and so at this point we don't think that a sketch artist would be probably of that much value.
But as we said, she got the clothes all wrong. She even thought he was wearing a kind of golf hat. He was not. But when police make an arrest, Mary Catherine insists correctly that they've got the wrong man. And so the weeks go by, and hope is receding. The community continues its frantic search, never guessing that Elizabeth is not only close, she could actually hear them calling her name. There are yellow ribbons, candlelight vigils, reward money offered for Elizabeth's safe return, $250,000 raised by the local community. While at home, a little sister lives in quiet agony.
Do you sleep with the nightlight on now?
No, I used to. Until my nightlight, it started to melt, and then I gave up on it.
We bought a dog for her, a little tiny schnauzer that, you know, stayed in her room with her. And I think that was very helpful. And he was very protective of her and barked, and so it was a good thing.
When would you get the saddest?
Just when people would come up to me and just be like, Elizabeth Smart's sister, huh? I'm like, yeah, because they remind me of it. Or else when I'm alone, when she was gone.
When we return, Mary Catherine suddenly remembers something important.
The name Emmanuel came into my head.
So when you first heard that she was saying this name,
It was a shock. How could that be?
Stay with us. Ever since her older sister Elizabeth was abducted, Mary Catherine Smart had been trying to remember something that could help find her. But up until now, she hadn't been able to. Once again, Diane Sawyer.
As we return, it has been months since Elizabeth Smart was kidnapped, and many people fear she has died. No one more than the little sister who tried but couldn't get the description right. Top memory expert Steve Cece.
Her memory was probably a tossed salad of perceptions. When you have this tossed salad in the aftermath of trauma, sometimes what you do is you start gluing pieces together into a composite that in fact doesn't resemble the actual experience. Later, when you feel more psychologically safe, you're capable then of seeing things and linking them that you couldn't in the hours after a traumatic event.
One evening, Mary Catherine Smart is idly leafing through a book, waiting for her dad to tuck her in.
And you pick up this book. Can you tell me what happened when you picked this book up?
I was like cleaning my room that day, and I had found the Guinness World Record book in my room, and I just started to look through it. I was thinking of who might have taken Elizabeth. It was on a page with this really muscular lady and like a Harley Davidson person, and I was thinking who has been to the house and who was suspicious, or the name Emmanuel came into my head.
And so when you first heard that she was saying this name,
it was a shock. How could that be?
He was a Bible-quoting drifter Lois Smart had tried to help with some work.
Why do you think a picture of a muscular woman made you think Emmanuel?
I don't know.
The only thing that when we discussed this once, she said, well, I think I may have been looking at the book when he was working on the roof with Dad.
It had been almost a year since he came to work on the Smarts' roof for only a few hours.
I couldn't even remember him. I couldn't, when they asked me if I could help the sketch artist come up with a face, I could not do that.
The Smarts rushed to the police with Mary Catherine's memory. The police agree to run a search on the name Emmanuel, but mistakenly spell the name with an I. And they miss a chance to identify the self-proclaimed prophet who called himself Emmanuel and was right there in their records, along with his real name, Brian David Mitchell. And though the police remained skeptical of Mary Catherine's memory, the Smarts had such faith in their little girl, they took the investigation into their own hands, hiring their own sketch artist. America's Most Wanted picked up the story.
The Smarts were hoping someone would recognize this face.
3 weeks later, a woman spots a strange man with two veiled women in downtown Salt Lake City.
911. Yes, could you tell me, is this like how, if I think I see that Emmanuel they're looking for? And he's walking with two ladies.
Okay, hold on a second. Does he have a robe on?
He has quite a bit of something on. They're carrying sleeping bags, and he's got a big bushy beard, a mustache.
The police rush to the scene. They question a nervous teenager in sunglasses and a gray wig. At first, in fear, she denies she's Elizabeth Smart.
The whole time we're talking to her, her heart was beating so hard you could see it through her chest.
Finally, she burst into tears with a biblical answer, "Thou sayest." She had been found just 15 miles from home. Later, court records would show that Mitchell had imprisoned her at times in this underground hole covered with boards and dirt, and at other times chained her to a tree. He made her his plural wife, hammering her with scripture and fear.
We're here to announce officially that we have found Elizabeth Smart.
It's real. It's real.
It's pretty exciting.
Did she look like the Elizabeth you remembered?
She was taller. And otherwise, she was the same.
Today, the family laughs and teases still shy Elizabeth, who talks to me about shopping.
Just a diamond, you know. Nothing big.
And school and dating.
Did we have a boyfriend? Do we ever?
Yes. Once again, little Mary Catherine has the sibling pleasure of loving and complaining about her older sister and best friend.
And does she do something that drives you crazy?
Yeah. She puts things on my side of the counter in my bathroom and leaves her stuff in my bathroom too.
That counter space is important.
It is.
I know. I had an older sister too. She claims that when she uses her stuff, she puts it away, and that's how. The biggest lie.
Yeah, I put it back on your side.
Girls.
The family made a decision. Discuss the past only in therapy. With each other, close the door and move on.
Do you think about it a lot?
Not really anymore.
That's great. Sometimes, though?
Yeah.